Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're going to tackle a massive headache that I think keeps a lot of audio video integrators up at night. I like to call it the Goldilocks problem.
It's a great way to put it. It sounds like a fairy tale, but yeah, in the AV world, it's a total nightmare.
Right.
You got the huge auditorium. That's easy. You just buy the massive rack of gear. Then you have the tiny huddle space, and you just buy a cheap USB soundbar. Simple.
But then there's that middle ground. The high-value corporate boardroom, the divisible classroom, maybe a medical training facility.
Exactly. The spaces that are too small for a server rack, but way, way too complex for some cheap all-in-one plastic bar.
And that's where this piece of hardware comes in.
That is precisely where QSC is aiming with the Core 8 Flex. It's a network and analog I/O processor that's designed specifically to fill that awkward gap.
Okay, let's peel this apart. You sent over the specs, and the first thing that jumped out at me was the physical size. It says 1U half width. For those of us who don't speak rack mount, what are we looking at here? A shoebox?
Smaller. Think of a standard hardback book. You can actually mount two of these side by side in a single slot in a gear rack. It's tiny.
Wow.
But the mission here isn't just about being small. It's about porting the full brain of the QSYS ecosystem, the operating system that runs stadiums, into this little package.
Okay, but I have to play skeptic here. Usually when manufacturers make a mini version of their flagship product, they cripple the software. Is this some kind of QSYS light?
No, and that is the big differentiator. It runs the exact same OS found in their best-in-class Core 110F.
Yeah.
So you aren't sacrificing the processing engine at all.
You're just scaling down the physical connectivity to match the room size?
You got it.
So speaking of connectivity, let's talk about the name. Core 8 Flex. I'm going to assume Flex is just marketing speak for, it works pretty well.
Yeah, it's actually a very functional description. So think about a traditional audio interface. You look at the back, you see a row of XLR ports. 4 are soldered as inputs for mics. 4 are soldered as outputs for speakers. They're set in stone.
Right. So here's the scenario. I'm installing a room. I've bought the gear. And suddenly the client decides they want 6 microphones instead of 4. But they only need 2 speakers. With a traditional box, I'm in trouble.
You are totally stuck. You'd have to buy a bigger, more expensive unit just to get those 2 extra mic inputs.
And I'd be left with a bunch of empty output ports I paid for but can't even use.
Exactly. The Flex 8 solves this. It just has 8 channels, period.
Yeah.
You tell the software what they are.
So 6 mics and 2 speakers.
Click a button. Done. Need 8 inputs and 0 outputs. Done. It allows you to utilize 100% of the I/O you paid for, no matter what weird mix the room needs.
That is a huge safety net, especially when projects' specs change midstream. Okay, but let's look at the digital side. The spec sheet mentions a lot of alphabet soup here. QLAN, AES67. What does that actually mean for the person running the facility?
Yeah, it's all about networked audio. So instead of running these thick copper cables everywhere, the audio travels over standard Ethernet cables, the same ones you use for the internet. This little box can handle 64 channels of that traffic coming in and out.
So it can pull in audio from a totally different room or a podium across the hall.
Exactly. And it ships with 8 channels of Dante audio included. Since Dante is basically the universal language of modern audio networking, that means it plays nice with almost any other pro gear you already have.
The feature that really matters to me, though, is the USB bridging. Because in our, post-COVID world, if I can't plug my laptop in and run a Zoom call using the room's good microphones, the room is basically useless.
That is the critical link, absolutely. The Core 8 Flex bridges that gap between the professional AV in the room and your bring-your-own-device laptop. It takes those nice ceiling mics, processes the audio to make it sound great, and then hands it to your laptop via USB as a standard speakerphone.
But wait, if I'm using ceiling mics and loudspeakers, isn't the person on the other end of the Zoom call going to hear their own voice echoing back at them?
And that is where the processing power really kicks in. It has 8 channels of AEC acoustic echo cancellation.
Okay, so that's built in.
It's baked right in. Usually you need a separate expensive box just to handle that math. Here, it just kills the echo so the meeting actually sounds natural.
So it's a full signal processor, a USB bridge, and a control server. Okay, so what's the damage to the wallet?
It lists for around $2,925.
So almost $3,000. That is not exactly impulse buy territory.
No, but in the pro AV world, it's a really strategic price point. It prevents over-provisioning. Before this, you might have spent, say, $5,000 on a larger core just to get the OS features, leaving half the ports empty. This hits that efficiency sweet spot for those Goldilocks rooms.
So it effectively kills that paying for dead air problem.
It does. It just proves you don't need a big physical footprint to have big processing power.
It also makes me wonder, where is this all going? If the QSYS OS, the software brain, is identical in the tiny box and the massive box, are we moving toward a world where the hardware almost doesn't matter?
That's the big question for the industry, isn't it?
Right. If the intelligence is entirely in the code, does the physical box eventually just become a dumb dongle we stick on a wall? Does the size of the room eventually become irrelevant to the quality of the experience? Something to chew on the next time you plug into a conference call.
Indeed.
That's it for this deep dive. Thanks for listening.